They wanted this for a long time, an excuse to centralize military power under the EU. For years, the EU promised us that gaining more power and control would not mean creating an EU army. They promised us that we as EU member nations could make our own decisions about going to war. Oh, but they lied. So this story from Euronews is a massive step in the direction of the EU beginning to centralize all of its power and control that it has over its member nations military. This is a very big deal, guys, because the EU, of course, was never meant to be this international military organization that it's quickly becoming, by the way. It was supposed to be this trading bloc that everyone is benefiting from equally, and that was supposed to be its strength. And actually, one of the founding principles of the EU was to never use the money, the budget within the EU for military operations. But if you've been following the EU lately over the last couple of years, that principle is beginning to be reduced to rubble. Actually, Denmark is kind of the final piece in the EU beginning of the puzzle, in the EU beginning to get its own army. Because Denmark has this clause in its agreements with the EU where it can not participate in military operations and so on if it doesn't want to. And that's why this story is very important. So take a look at this, guys. Denmark's surprising U-turn on the EU common defense policy. Russia's invasion of Ukraine appears to be prompting the European Union to drop all of its long-standing taboos about defense one at a time. That's very important, and we need to keep an eye on this. For the first time ever, the bloc is financing the purchase of lethal weapons for countries that are under attack, a decision that European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has described as a watershed moment. Not as an outright catastrophe, but a watershed moment. Since the EU treaties prevent the common budget from bankrolling military operations, the EU will provide Ukraine with €500 million fund under an off-budget instrument known as the European Peace Facility. Now, isn't that nice? So look, guys, what happened here is that the European Peace Facility is not about peace at all. It's a strictly military organization that's not technically under the EU, but it's run and controlled and owned and funded by the EU. Let me just show you guys what the European Peace Facility is really all about, even according to the European Commission itself. So it says that the EPF is an off-budget instrument that enhances the EU's ability to act as a global security provider, global military security provider, because that's what we're talking about here. It was established last year in March to preserve peace, prevent conflicts, and strengthen international security. Isn't that beautiful that the EU is now wanting to expand into being a global international military security provider? Isn't that crazy? So take a look at this. The key facts, according to their own webpage, says that the budget of the EPF is 5.7 billion euros. Now, where do you think they got that money? They got it from the EU. It's funded by the EU. It says that it consists of two pillars, one for military operations and one for assistance measures, which I looked into, and it's also military. So it's a military organization. It's run by the EU. It says that the EU member states each has a representatives, essentially, that's running this as a committee. So they're running the EPF. The EU is running it. So let me just go back and translate for you guys what it says here. It says that since the EU treaties prevent the common budget from bankrolling military operations, the EU will provide Ukraine with a 500 million fund from the EU. It's all the same. So we won't get more into the EPF in this video because I want to get into the most important thing about this whole video, which is coming right up. But if you want to know more about the EPF and how the EU is funding military operations, how they are selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, different nations where they really shouldn't, like the catastrophes in Yemen, I will link to a video right here and you can click that one. It's a video I created that explains in depth of how the EU is profiting off of the illegal weapons selling to a bunch of these nations. So check that out if you want to, but let's continue to the important part of this video. The final piece of the puzzle of the EU creating its own army was actually Denmark, because when Denmark joined the EU, they had a clause in the agreement saying that they would join in on all decisions having to do with financial decisions and sanctions and so on. But when it came to military actions, Denmark would not join. So that would, for a long time, prevent the EU from creating a fully centralized army, because you would need the armies of all of the member nations. The main reason for Denmark not wanting the military part of this agreement is something like this, called the Mutual Defense Clause. It says that if a member state is the victim of armed aggression on its territory, the other member nations or states shall have towards it an obligation of aid and assistance by all the means in their power. By all the means in their power, which is now also militarily, which makes me as a Dane very happy that we're not part of. Like that's a good thing. But all good things must come to an end, and I just can't figure out why, in this case, why you voluntarily would hold a referendum, an election on this very issue. It seems crazy to me. Why would you give up your sovereignty when you don't have to? But we are. Take a look at this. Now another European country is having a change of heart. The Danish government, led by Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, has announced the country will hold a referendum to reconsider the 30-year-old opt-out clause that has so far kept Denmark away from the EU common defense policy. It also says that if Danish citizens vote to repeal the opt-out clause, and they will, the country will become immersed in the common defense policy, and Danish troops will be deployed around the world under a centralized command. Centralized command all around the world. Those are all words that doesn't make any sense when you're talking about a military and the EU. It's not supposed to be this global force, security force. Like, why are we going to Africa and Asia and parts of South America sending troops from the EU when you're not even supposed to have a military? And now I know I'm saying Denmark a lot, but this really isn't about Denmark. This is about what it means for everyone in the EU and the EU organization as a whole, how it now can create its own military, and there's pretty much nothing holding the EU back from creating an army and sending them around the world. And it's crazy to me. This is what happens when you give politicians power and you don't really keep control over them. They always want more power. It's the same like with me and chocolate bars. If you give me one chocolate bar, is that enough? Is it enough for a full week? No, I'm gonna want more. And they want more, and I want more chocolate bars. It's the exact same thing. It never ends. Actually, I can see why some would be for a military within the EU, having an army, even though most of the EU members have the NATO army as well. But I understand why the EU would want its own army. And I think you could make good arguments for it. But my problem is that no arguments are being made. It's just kind of being done. It's not the will of the people for the EU to become militarized and have a huge army that spans around the globe. Like people sign on to a trade agreement, and then 20 years down the line, you're involved with weird conflicts in Africa and South America, and no one outside of the people in Brussels understand it. And maybe they don't even understand it. Like at this point, you don't want to give up this much control, and I don't see why my country would give up sovereignty in this way. And it's not about Denmark, because it kind of happened to all of the EU member nations, just one by one, beginning to agree to a little bit, then agreeing to the EPF. Then it turns out that actually the European Peace Facility is not about peace at all. It's about selling weapons abroad. Like, it doesn't make any sense that we've gone from the EU being this trade agreement, this peaceful union, and then we have NATO to protect us, and now we just, like, politicians in Brussels, they want full on a military, an army that consists of all of the member nations. It's pretty crazy to me. A consequence of the Ukraine crisis is really, whether intentional or unintentional, that you see NATO and the EU beginning to grow militarily. NATO has gotten a lot stronger, and a lot more nations are thinking about coming into membership of NATO, and it's the same with the EU. Ukraine wants to join. There are other nations, but the EU at the same time has gained a lot more support from politicians all around Europe for a military within the EU. Tell me what you think about all of this in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to check out your comments and respond to them. If you agree, if you disagree, it doesn't really matter, because your opinion is valuable no matter where you're coming from with what you say. Hit the like button if you like the video. It really helps me out with the algorithm, the mighty YouTube algorithm. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.